See him here. Off to a good start with Green Red Monster, starting at 2-0. I know that he was looking for Mono Black Devotion at the beginning of the day, but wasn't able to find all the cards, so he decided, all right, Blue Chronos and friends, let's do this.
Also a well-known moto grinder as well.
Yes,
So
plays a lot of Magic Online. A whole bunch. He'll be playing against Killian Hiltz, Mono Black Devotion. So Boogeyman versus not Boogeyman.
a couple cards different. He's cut the 6-minute Garrick, which we've seen both red-green players we've had on camera do thus far. He's playing a third copy of Mizium Mortars in the main deck. Otherwise, very similar to the list that we saw Brian Bronwyn and Chris Van Meter play last weekend in Indianapolis.
Well, he's going to be put to the test right away. But fortunately for Mann, you can see there's a Mizium Orders in his hand. I'm assuming that there's a second land over there that can come into play untapped. Well, certainly I hope so for his case. I think he might have a Temple of Abandon. But you see a Forest, two of them actually. So the question is, how much do I care about Pack Rat? I think the answer is probably a lot. So Mizium Orders is going to take care of that.
Thank goodness that's not a Garrick in his hand.
Yes, I do agree. As Hiltz is going to draw a card here. Now you see his lands that he does have out there. He's going to play a Swamp. But he can't play a Night Veil Spectre this turn, so all you can do is get a connection set up, which, to be fair, is a pretty good turn 3.
Yeah, not too shabby here. Steven's definitely going to have to speed up his game plan a little bit here.
Yeah.
As now Killian has a huge edge if the game goes long.
So let's see what Mann wants to do on his turn. He does have those 2 lands in play. Now he's going to play a Domri. So, going to try to go up. And he will. There's a Boon Satyr. So, Domri off to a nice start. Beautiful can't kill it. Hero's Downfall, of course, can. And we'll see if Hiltz does have one of those. As you do see the powerful Planeswalker, one of the more powerful ones in recent memory. I feel like it hasn't dominated as much as it should have, though.
Well, the deck building cost is really big. Not only do you have to be playing 2 colors, but you have to be playing a 2-color creature deck. And then, not only that, but you can't be playing a really little creature deck because both powers are not that awesome when your creatures are all tiny. And so you have to build a pretty specific style of red-green deck. But once you do that, Domri is one of the more powerful cards you could possibly add.
Domri going to be taken down by Hero's Downfall. Underworld Connections at the ready for Hiltz on Mann's end step. But we'll see what Mann does choose to do on his 4th turn now that his Planeswalker is dead. Got to get some of those monsters on the battlefield, the namesake of this deck.
Yeah, again, time is not really on his side here. So as good as Domri and plussing and hitting is, he needs to get something on the board here. Remember, the red-green monster list is pretty susceptible to Desecration Demon. It can't really kill it, and doesn't have a ton of spare creatures flying around, and so Steven's in a bit of a race against time here.
And certainly not a lot of spare creatures laying around this particular game, so he has to be kind of scared that knowing that Hiltz is going to be able to draw a card on his end step, take a draw on his turn, maybe another draw with Underworld Connections. There's a lot of cards coming for the mono-black player. Mann going to lead off with a Temple of Abandon. Take a look at the top card and see what he wants to do with that one.
We might see the interaction this turn of Domri plus Scryland, one of the more hyped things when the Scryland got revealed.
Absolutely. That's going to tick up. We're going to see that go to the grip. It's another copy of Boon Satyr. But again, as good as a card as Boon Satyr is, it's really not all that threatening right now, it feels like. It's here, and you know, it's a 4-2, and it's a good attacker, but it's not really doing all that much as Hiltz is going to take a draw step here.
Yeah, if Killian is just on nothing but removal spells, this Domri plan is very powerful.
Yeah.
But if he actually starts adding to the board, then Steven's going to have to respond in kind.
How about a Thoughtseize to find out what Mann has over there? So you're going to see Hiltz is going to lay out the grip. There's a Forest, an Elvish Mystic. We know there are 2 copies of Boon Satyrs in the hand. Another Elvish Mystic and a Sylvan Caryatid. So a rather unimpressive grip there from Mann.
Yeah, I was talking about Desecration Demon. This hand is ill-equipped to handle Desecration Demon.
This is the kind of hand that loses to Desecration Demon. Don't have really the best of fodder to throw away, but you kind of also want to keep those creatures in play as well. So kind of puts you between a rock and a hard place here as Hiltz is going to write all these cards down. We'll see what he's going to take with Thoughtseize. Can't forget that one of those cards is going to disappear.
I imagine we're just taking one of the Boon Satyrs here because every other card in Mann's hand is pretty low impact.
Hiltz's hand isn't great either. He does have 2 copies of Devour Flesh, which will actually be okay. Again, if we're going to have that Desecration Demon type game, those are going to kind of take away the little creatures, and the Desecration Demon can just start storming on in. But right now, if you're Hiltz, you got to get that Domri off the board. That's problem number 1, because the hand is not great for Mann. Mutavault's going to fire up. It's going to go into Domri. That means there's no Hero's Downfall waiting. Also, no activation yet of the connection, so no land either there from Hiltz. He does pass the turn back to Mann, so that's a step in the right direction.
Surprising to not see him activated in his main phase there when he is choked on mana and missing land drops.
I agree. Domri going to move up to 3. Take a look. Going to miss. Doesn't mean it's a land. Could be another Planeswalker or a Mysian Mortars. He does have some spells in his deck. Not a ton. Man going to reorganize the mana here. He did draw, again, a Storm Breath Dragon. But does he want to deploy that where he has to believe that Hiltz probably has at least one Devour Flesh hanging out?
Yeah. Man might want to try to set up a situation where he adds a bunch of mana creatures to his board to give him some fodder for Devour Flesh before deploying his meaningful cards.
So let's see what path Man wants to take in this game. Again, does have the Boon Satyr. Gonna play just a bunch of mana stones. Double Elvish Mystic and the Sylvan Carrier, leaving him again with the Boon Satyr and the Stormbreath Dragon behind. Hiltz gonna pay 1. He'll draw a card. Did draw a land, so maybe this comes back to bite him that he didn't do that on his main phase. Draws a Temple of Deceit, so he could have 6 lands in play right now. Gonna put the top card on the bottom.
And these are, right now, with Killian unable to find Desecration Demon, this is one of the games where Domri gets to really flex its muscles.
Oh, yeah. With no Hero's Downfall in sight either. This is a copy of Pack Rat. Going to pass the turn back, but that one's actually pretty easy for Man to kill because he does have Domri out there.
Yeah, between the Boon Satyr in his hand and the Stormbreath Dragon, he can definitely just fight if he's feeling so inclined.
Now, of course, there is a Mutavault that is available. Can turn the Pack Rat into a 2/2. Also, he could represent that I have a removal spell to kill your guy in response to a fight with something like an Ultimate Price or a Doomblade, but maybe Man will see right through that.
Yeah, the lists, have gotten a little more homogenized in recent weeks, especially after Turnworld won the Open, but you do see some of the less represented removals still in these decks at times. So even though Owen's list is the most popular one, you can't ignore the possibility of something like Doomblade.
Here's 5 mana. There's your Stormbreath Dragon. We're likely to see a fight between the rat and the dragon. See if we're willing to pull the trigger on that. I'm going to start by attacking first, which I do like. Get your damage first.
Yep. If he has a removal spell, you'll probably find out inside of combat, and then you can proceed differently if he has something to kill that dragon.
Big question here, too, is how much do you actually care about that Pack Rat? You're in a pretty good situation. You might not care about it too much, but Pack Rat will fight Stormbreath Dragon. It's going to lose that fight. And now Man does have 3 mana available to play a Boon Satyr on the end step. So Domri kind of dominating as Underworld Connection is going to draw a card.
With Domri sufficiently protected now, because of all the blockers that are on defense, no reason to let that Pack Rat get out of control. I don't think Man really cares about it too much, but there is a possibility of that card getting out of control, and the opportunity cost to take care of it right there is pretty low, so might as well just handle it.
Desecration Demon, one of the cards drawn there for Hiltz. And we talked about how great Desecration Demon is in this matchup, but not right now.
Yeah, that
too
window,
far behind.
The window has closed a little bit. Man with a lot of spare creatures and a pretty advanced board, so Desecration Demon would have been a disaster for Steven on turn 4, let's say, but now we're at a point where Man has a lot of resources to work with.
So, Hiltz is going to organize some mana here. Looks like he's going to tap 4 for the Demon, but again, it's just not going to have a very large impact on this particular game.
And let's also keep in mind that Killian's, his life total is on the lower side now. He took a Stormbreath Dragon hit. He's been activating that Underworld Connections a few times as well, so he doesn't have a lot of breathing space either.
So Desecration Demon does show up to the party. I can only imagine Man giving that a thumbs up, saying, that's A-okay with me, my friend. I don't mind that one bit. Let's see what else Hiltz has to do on this particular turn. Again, he does have copies of Devour Flesh in his hand, but again, that's another card that's just not going to be great in this position.
Yeah. Steven has a lot of Knuckleheads in play that don't really matter very much, so if there's any card he's well equipped to fight right now, it's Edicts.
Yeah. And he knows, again, this is a very informed, accomplished Magic player, so I'm sure he's very aware of the deck list that Owen Turnworld used to win last week or do well at Albuquerque, all that good stuff. Again, plays a lot of Magic online, so you can assume that there might be a Freakus Cure hanging out in the grip, Devour Fleshes, but it's unlikely that you'll see Doomblade or Ultimate Price in this situation where Mono Black Devotion does have 2 mana available.
Especially since, he had the dragon available last turn, nothing happened to it. You can pretty safely assume that's in the clear. I think he was contemplating just casting a Boon Satyr at the end of Killian's turn, but again, like you said, the Freaker's Cure maybe changes that equation.
Check with Domri. Will miss as it does move up to 2. See what Mann wants to do now. How he wants to go about controlling this demon. If he wants to play a creature pre-combat and sacrifice that.
Also may want to just go monstrous with his dragon this turn too. That's a possibility.
Also a really, really nice option there. That'll move it to a 7/7. Hiltz has some cards in his hand, so you get a little more damage that way, but is that how he wants to invest all of his mana on this particular turn? Needs to try a little bit carefully. See 6 mana being tapped. Let's make it 7, he says. Monstrosity activation on the stack. 3 counters given. 4 damage dealt to Hiltz. He's going to go down to 7. See Demon Trigger put on the stack. Caryatid will sacrifice. It's going to become a 7/7. This will be an attack for lethal.
Killian may have to Devour Flesh himself just to stay alive this turn.
Something that we saw Owen Turtenwald do to great effect last week. Killian will do the same. So he's going to gain 7, basically negating the damage dealt by the Stormbreath Dragon's attack, but he will end up taking 2.
Yeah, now he's in a position where if he draws a Hero's Downfall for the dragon, he's kind of keeping his head above water a little bit here, but clearly Killian on the ropes right now.
An 8-player winner box, either modern, legacy, or standard.
All right, so an untap here with Hiltz down to 5.
Or a $5 commander pod. We have 1 spot left in that
Take a draw.
$5 commander pod. We're also taking signups.
Looks like he didn't find very much of consequence with that draw step. Couldn't make it out too well, but knowing the contents of his hand, looks like he's going to have some real trouble getting out of this game. He's going to start by drawing a card and go down to 4.
Look like Farika's Cure, I believe, was the draw.
So there's a land. He's already cashed his Connections activation, so let's see what he can find with these few cards in his hand and access to 6 mana.
Yeah, he needs either Hero's Downfall or some weird sequence of, Farika's Cures and Devour Fleshes to be able to get this dragon off the table. Let's also not forget that he's aware that there's a Boon Satyr in Steven's hand as well, so that he has to cover that as well.
And that's representing 4 additional damage.
It means each individual attacker is lethal.
An enviable spot to be in if you're Stephen Mann, as Hiltz is going to pass the turn back. He'll take a draw. Domri is going to tick up.
Finds a Scavenging Ooze. And Steven's hand's loaded here. He has a Xenagos, another dragon.
Yeah, sure, why not? That'll be lethal too. So now he's got to have answers to 2 dragons.
This feels very difficult for Killian to get out of.
And he says, I can't get out of it. So, Stephen Mann is going to win game number 1 here over Killian Hiltz. Green-Red Monsters up a game over Mono Black Devotion, as we'll take a look at the sideboards with these gentlemen. We'll start with the Mono Black player, which I do have in front of me, which sideboard, par for the course.
Yep.
It's basically always looking like this now, of 2 Freakus Cures, 3 Dark Betrayals, 3 Lifebane Zombie, 3 Airboats Guided Dead, and 4 copies of Duress. I like Lifebane Zombie, of course, in this matchup, playing against a green deck. Very enviable position to be in. But outside of that, I mean, Freakus Cure doesn't really have the most targets. Can take care of Elvish Mystic, can maybe take care of a Scavenging Ooze, catch a Boon Satyr off guard, but other than that, you're really not going to be able to get to kill anything with it.
And that's a thing that I really like about the Red-Green Monster list, especially against Owen's build of Mono Black, is the removal doesn't actually line up that well. I mean, they don't have Doom Blades and Ultimate Prices. Those are really the kind of removal spells you want, and most of the Mono Black decks have moved away from that. So your Stormbreath Dragons and your Pelucranosis, which are often not that efficient against Mono Black, are actually really good the way this new list is set up.
And then outside of that, I mean, Erebos is obviously for your control matchups. The same can be said for Duress, even though Duress does have some nice targets. There's some Planeswalkers, some Mizzy Mortars hanging around. That's what you got Thoughtseize for. And then Dark Betrayal, well, we're not in the mirror, so that'll stay at home as well. So not a lot of options for the Mono Black deck in this particular matchup, but I feel like Mann's got some options against Mono Black.
He has 4 copies of Misguided Hydra, 2 Destructive Revelries, 3 Shocks if he wants additional answers to Pack Rat, though I don't think he's going to go down that road. a 4th Mizium Mortar, which I can see coming in as it answers both Pack Rat and Night Veil Spectre and Grey Merchant. 2 copies of Chandra Pyromaster. We saw the red-green players in Indianapolis move to that card in the sideboard games against Mono Black Devotion as they just try to convert into a Planeswalker control deck. Chandra doesn't line up especially well against Desecration Demon, but in a slow, grindy, removal-oriented game, Chandra can be quite good. 1 copy of Rorikthar, not really for this matchup. 1 copy of Hunt the Hunted, or Hunt the Hunter, rather, sorry, and 1 copy of Time to Feed. Not really for these
removal
matchups.
on that board.
Yeah, little spice.
You don't see that all the time. Now, you guys do see right now that Stephen Mann is 2-0. We've got some players that we are following over the course of this weekend who are also 2-0. You see Cam Atkins, who is actually on our leaderboard. He's actually the highest person on our leaderboard here this weekend, sitting in 33rd place with 53 Open Series points. He's sitting at 2-0, as is Grand Prix Hoth champion Bronson Magnan, excuse me. Stephen Mann, we're watching him right now, 2-0. Andrew Schneider, Harry Corvasi, players who are sitting at 2-0. So make our way to the next slide here. We'll see that David Bauer, good friend Harry Corvasi, sitting at 2-0. David McDarby, watched him pick up his first loss. Mark Nestico lost round number 1. We do have a deck tech with him later today. John Cuvier, who has won an Open Series here in Florida, sitting at 1-1. And David Scharfman, he picked up his first loss. Pro Tour Nagoya champion, also at 1-1. So those are the players that we'll be following over the course of the weekend. As we do head back over to the match, see the players shuffling up. The names who are in attendance, they're all still alive so far, but a lot of Magic to be played.
Yeah, no one bricked off that early, but certainly 1 loss this early in the tournament really makes it a struggle to make the elimination rounds.
Might not be able to make it there, but can still get those Open Series points if you're in the chase. If you want to be one of those 16 players at the end of the year who's in Roanoke, Virginia at the Players' Championship. Every round counts.
And I believe one of our Indianapolis top 8 competitors was a round 1 loser, and that was an 11-round tournament.
Dan Cato, he lost round 1 and then just ran off 9 in a row. And lucky for him, was able to draw in round 11.
Yeah. We barely made it to 11 rounds, so X1-1 was good last week.
It's the best feeling in the world, be able to be able to draw in the last round after you lose round 1. That uphill climb is already enough. You know, keeping your head in the game after losing round 1 and not just giving up on the tournament.
A skill that I used to have, but has since left me.
It's a tough skill. It's a tough skill, it is. Just not to give up hope and just say, can I get that second loss already so I can go eat or go do whatever the heck I want to go do in this city. But for Cato last weekend, to run 9 off in a row and then end up making the top 4, that's a good salvage on a weekend. Looks like Hiltz is going to take a mulligan here. Mann's going to consult his hand. We'll see if he wants to keep his opening 7. Not really a very fast start for Mann in the last game, but was still able to get the job done.
Yeah, well, Killian didn't put him under the gun, really. All he had was that pack rat that got killed. The rest of his hand was removal and just that underworld connection, so that allowed Steven the space he needed to just play Domri, accumulate some extra cards, and then kill Killian with his leftovers.
So we'll see if Hiltz is going to be able to find a better 6-card hand. Now, of course, as you guys do join Patrick and I over the course of the weekend, we're going to mention it many times that you can join us on Twitter at SCG Live, hashtag SCGORL. I saw this guy to my left in between rounds checking out the Twitter sphere on his phone. As we are being informed right now that our backup feature match was going to be Grand Prix Lincoln champion Bronson Magnum, but he lost on the backup match, so not going to get to see him this go-around, but he is sitting at 2-1 now, so his elimination rounds, they're still alive.
Yeah. Well, it's like some swamps and some removal spells.
More than enough
Yep.
to keep. As Mann is going to lead off here with a Temple of Abandon. So we'll see if he has a Mana Accelerate on turn 2. Now, we've talked about many times with Green Red Monsters how the deck is much different when it has Mana Acceleration as opposed to when it doesn't. But in that last game for Mann, no real Mana Acceleration until turn 4 or 5 there, but still able to win.
Yeah, usually the Mana Acceleration is important because, in part, the deck needs the Mana Acceleration to keep pace with what the faster decks in the format are doing, or because it's a race against time in some matchups. Last game was neither of those.
Yeah.
Killian just didn't really pressure him, but neither pressured the board nor pressured the inevitability of the game. So a slower start for Steven, usually not the best thing for Red Green Monsters, but last game Killian had the kind of hand where you could be on the slow side.
Temple of Abandon, number 2 here from Mann. Going to take a look at the top card, decide what he wants to do with it, and we'll see if he does have an Elvish Mystic to follow up with. He's going to keep that on top, and he does have a Mystic. So this is actually a pretty good start, all things considered.
Yep. Gets to deploy, both colors of mana are also critical for this deck as well, so
Oh, those Scrylands. 5 more to go. I can't wait till they get here. And now there's a Nightveil Spectre. So not the best card in this matchup, but, you know, there are worse things to have.
Yeah, the colors don't overlap. There's some removal that checks it. Domri's fighting will kill it in most situations, but still critical for your devotion count and just having enough stuff to put into play.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly helps that it can pressure a Planeswalker a little bit instead of letting Domri and Xenagos just have free reign over a battlefield. As here is the aforementioned Domri. Ticking on up. It is a miss. Elvish Mystic is going to cast the Elvish Mystic. I didn't think it was feeling tough.
And this is another spot where Steven is really exposed to Desecration Demon.
Mm-hmm.
These kind of slower starts are where Desecration Demon can put him under a ton of pressure, but we'll see if Killian has it momentarily.
Spectre is going to come across. I think it would attack the Domri because the Domri missed there, but it actually ends up going this way. Maybe he felt that he needed a land to be able to cast a spell. So
yeah, I don't think he has a land in his hand, so
this may end up working out for the best here, as a Thoughtseize is going to reveal the grip here for Mann of a Xenagos, double Gore-Clan Rampager, and a Storm Breath Dragon. So that's some that's a high-powered stuff.
yeah. That turn that you saw Steven just take where he played Domri and added an elf, that's going to be his last low-impact turn to the game.
Yeah.
For the rest of the game, he's going to be cranking out really powerful threats every turn. He's going to make blocking really challenging.
This one starting to move up in playability right now. Again, that first was revealed. No one could deny the power, just didn't really have a home, especially side by side with Domri, where you want to have a lot of creatures in your deck because of Domri, so you can't really afford to have other Planeswalkers. Well, the truth was somewhere in between, as they found some room for a couple copies of that guy.
Yeah, all you had to do really is make Domri's fight power good enough where even if you're missing, the fact that you're getting to fight multiple times through the course of the game is a powerful thing to be doing. Also that your creatures are so high impact that when you do hit, it really matters.
Yep.
And this Red Green Monsters list has achieved those things. In little Red Green lists, you have to be hitting all the time to justify the card's slot in your deck.
So Xenagos is going to come in now. And so now he's pressuring him with Planeswalkers quite well here, is Mann.
And these are the kind of games where a bunch of removal spells just doesn't cut it.
Mm-hmm. So the activation to make a Satyr token. In response, we're going to cast Devour Flesh. So Elvish Mystic is going to bite the dust. Mann's going to gain a life. Now the token's going to come into play. And safe to come into the red zone with both the Mystic and the Satyr.
It's even with a really advanced board at this point.
Yeah, he's doing really, really well right now. Hiltz is going to take a draw here. Another copy of Thoughtseize, and as powerful as that card is, not great in this situation.
Yeah, the problem for Killian right now is the stuff that's happening in play,
Mm-hmm.
not the stuff that's in Steven's hand.
See where Nightveil Spectre is going to go. Is it going to go towards Mann yet again? Or maybe a little attack towards one of those Planeswalkers?
Yeah, it's tough because he can't really whittle down either Planeswalker at this point. I guess he can go after Xenagos and kill that over the course of 2 turns. But he knows that Steven can play a Rampager and fight the Nightveil Spectre, so attritioning down these Planeswalkers doesn't do very much. At the same time, getting a card with Nightveil Spectre doesn't do a lot.
Well, a Grey Merchant is going to try to turn some things around here, so it's going to be a gain and a drain for 5. Killian's going to move to 20. Mann's going to move down to 14. Pass the turn back here. So, Mann going to untap all that stuff. He's got 2 Planeswalkers to use. We know he's got dragons. He draws a forest for the turn. He also has that Gore-Clan Rampager that we did mention. So let's see how he wants to go about taking this turn, because he's got a lot of options at his disposal.
Yeah, I mean, he can add another Satyr, play a Rampager, and fight. He can try to plus his Domri to try to keep it around for another turn and let the board, build up a little bit. I think the fact that, Killian, again, he's playing a Devotion deck, Grey Merchant is a thing. I think Steven's going to lean on the side of trading as much as possible, as allowing Killian to build up his board is really risky. It does sting a little bit to lose the Domri potentially next turn if your plan for this turn is to fight, but
Oh, yeah.
it also means Nightveil Spectre is not attacking you, it's attacking a Planeswalker, you still have your Xenagos in play. It's worth mulling these things over, but
And that's exactly what the Pro Tour Gatecrash top 8 competitor is going to do. He wants to make sure he finds the right avenue to close this game out in the necessary turns and move on to 3-0 in this tournament. He's certainly in a good spot right now, but doesn't want to give anything away.
He also has the option of fighting the Night Veil Spectre and just leaving the Grey Merchant back on defense and building up that way if he really is that concerned about trying to protect this Domri. If he's looking to just race, then I think you want to kill the Grey Merchant, attack for this turn, and keep the devotion count low as possible.
Rampager, time to fight. So Night Veil Spectre, you've got to leave. Xenagos, are you going to make some mana? Or are you going to make a Satyr? Looks like it's going to make a Satyr token. So now there's another one of those.
So, yep, Steven could have chose to race this turn. Instead, he wants to protect that Domri. He's going to gum up the works a little bit and try to control the pace of this game with his Planeswalkers.
Looks like he's comfortable playing a longer game.
Certainly, 2 Planeswalkers in play against no pressure is a really good spot to be in.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's some mana. Probably sense that there's another Grey Merchant coming. So, gain 4 will Hiltz. He'll go up to 24. Mann's going to go down to 10. Those Grey Merchants, while they are kind of blocking the road a little bit here, when you're playing against a Green Monsters deck, those things can be killed pretty easily.
You still have to be concerned about, if you're in Steven's place, just kind of getting burned out of this game.
Oh, yeah.
That's still got to be something on your mind. You likely have most of the other cards in Killian's deck control at this point. You have a Xenagos that can just generate Satyrs and check. Desecration Demon. Pack Rat, a little slow and low impact for this sort of thing, but the possibility of getting burned out by Grey Merchants is a real thing here, so Steven does have to still tread lightly.
See a scry happening right now. Again, Mann's hand, he just has that Gorkline Rampager. Stormbreath Dragon was taken via Thoughtseize, so that's what he's working with right now. He's deciding if he wants to keep the card on top of his deck. He says he does, which leads me to believe that we're going to see Domri drawing something here.
Oh, I think it actually might be. Actually, would not surprise me if the top card of his deck was Mizzian Mortars. I think if there was a creature, there would be no hesitation.
He says up this.
Mortars is so powerful right now, Killian having a couple 2/4s in play.
Yeah.
And you see Steven plus it and not say anything.
Not say anything, yeah.
I'm willing to bet that card is Mizzian Mortars. Which means Steven will wait one more turn, probably play cautiously one more turn, follow this up, overload Mortars next turn, sweep up Killian's board.
Yeah, it looks like he may have nailed it on that one. And now here's another Grey Merchant. This is going to be a drain for 6. So now Mann's going to go down to 4, and Hiltz is going to go up to 30. But if your prediction is correct, all of those Grey Merchants are going to go bye-bye in just a moment.
Yeah, for as dominant as Steven's board is here, I mean, an Underworld Connection's in play, and that, it's a different game.
Yeah. So now what does Mann want to do?
Is it perhaps Chandra he left on top? He moved for 4 mana.
It is a Chandra.
Okay.
And so what is he going to do with this one? That's a very good question. Because whatever he reveals he can cast because Xenagos can go up. I guess that's one of the few cards that he didn't want to find. I suppose he can still cast that because he hasn't used his Domri yet.
Yeah, he could theoretically, fight with Domri. And then cast a fresh one if he was feeling so inclined.
3 Planeswalkers in play now for Mann. That is a lot of those. So now in comes the Rampager. I like this attack a lot. Because now what he can do here is, regardless of blocks, he can Rampage, make his guy into an 8/8, and then fight twice if he wanted to. He's going to opt not to do that, so he's going to go fight here. Then he's going to play this. Replay a Domri. See if he wants to activate Xenagos, let that go up. So he's going to reveal, he's going to look at the top card. Has he used that Xenagos yet? I don't think so. Okay, he's just going to make another Satyr token. He's going to make another Satyr token, okay. A little surprised to see that be a design where he could cast the other Rampager in his hand. As here's a Lifebane zombie. It's going to actually take that Rampager
Yeah, the way this worked out was not great for Steven, but there is, the argument that his Domri is going to be gone that turn. That's his one window to cast it, where that Rampager isn't going anywhere and is likely to be good over the course of several more turns.
Sure.
So, of course, Killian drawing Lifebane Zombie there. I'm sure if Steven knew that was on the top of his deck, he would have played last turn differently. But
yeah, a minor annoyance. Of course, Chandra has Lifebane Zombie taken care of. So the fact that it can get in there unimpeded is not going to matter all that much.
now part of the issue for Steven in this matchup is that Chandra doesn't really provide any inevitability.
Yeah.
You can't minus it and win the game like
Yeah.
you can with certain other decks in Standard. So it's basically just personal Howling Mine, sort of, and can make blocking prohibitive. Now,
Yeah,
these are
it's
bad things, but
Yeah, it's a strange card drawing engine in this deck. Domri going to tick up. Take a look at the top. Sylvan Caryatid. Not the best of finds. But again, if you're a man, now, of course, your opponent is basically drawing to 1 in the form of the 4th Gray Merchant. Still want to get the game over with.
there could also be a stray Whip of Erebos in his list.
That's
a
true.
possibility.
Yep.
Killian, I believe, is just playing 0-75.
He is, but
So-
you never, as you mentioned, it just a possibility. Something
Yeah.
could happen. You're playing the game, and it's just like,
I've
there's
still-
no whips.
I've still played against plenty of whips online in the last, whatever it is, week or two. Week after Owen's win, so another
attack
thing
for
to be
4.
mindful of, certainly.
Absolutely. Even though it's fallen out of favor, there are still people who do play it. You see the Rampager comes across for 4, knocks Hiltz down to 21. And Mann does have a nice Satyr token army, but they just can't get into the red zone.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if he's actually left Mizium Mortars in his list at all, because that would be a huge haymaker here.
So there's a Sylvan Caryatid. All the Planeswalkers been activated, and Hiltz is going to pass it back. So at any point, a Grey Merchant rolls off the top of that deck for Mr. Hiltz. It's lights out, Guerrilla Radio.
But I think he is drawing to exactly that at this point.
I think so, too.
Desecration Demon, of course, no longer that meaningful with Steven's board built up the way that it is. Random removal spells don't really catch anything. Domri can fight, Night Veil Specters. It's
And a red zone. I do wonder how Mann is going to block here. If he's just going to go on chump blocking duty, or is he just going to try to block these a bunch so that they die?
Well, it seems like it's valuable to try to actually get these off the table, because it means that the 4th Grey Merchant is no longer lethal.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, if I'm in Steven's spot, I'd make some effort to get these off the board.
So you see the blocks here, 3 Satyr tokens in front of one, 2 in front of the other. We can see a removal spell on the one that's being double blocked. It looks like we're going to see maybe a Pharika's Cure, so that one of those Grey Merchants does live. That's what we're going to see. So Pharika's Cure is going to knock Hiltz up to 23, and
you see
that one's going to take care of the Satyr token.
And you see some of the inefficiencies of Pharika's Cure in this matchup.
Yeah.
Steven's playing a much bigger, powerful game in the post-board games, and not really a lot of targets there, just Elvish Mystic.
Devour Flesh. We'll see which way that's going. But Mann's got plenty of things to sacrifice, and the Sylvan Caryatid is certainly one of them.
And critically, this also gets Steven to a point where the Grey Merchant is no longer lethal.
Yeah.
He's actually, I would imagine, quite thrilled that Killian cast that.
So after the dust settles, some Satyr tokens, Grey Merchants are going to leave, but you're going to have Hiltz at 23, Mann at 7, and now Mann already was in a pretty good situation, even though he does draw a land here, but now he's in a great spot.
Yeah, the door being shut on the 4th Grey Merchant being lethal has to be a big sigh of relief for Steven.
Mountain comes off the top, going to come directly into play. Domri. Looks like it wants to pick a battle, and it will. So bye-bye Grey Merchant. Gorkline Rampager stands supreme. Xenagos, 0. Satyr token in. Might be time for a little trip to the red zone. Perhaps.
I would imagine so. Maybe he wants to leave something back on defense to check Mutavault.
Yep. See, Elvish Mystic and Satyr tokens are going to, Gorkline Rampager and Satyr tokens are going to kind of play. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 will be the attack, and a knock Hiltz down to 13, and then 2 Elvish Mystics back on defense to check the Mutavault, as you said.
Yeah. And I'm sure if Killian wants to use a removal spell here on an elf, then Steven is totally happy with that.
Absolutely. His Desecration Demon's going to come into play. Man going to quickly untap. You can tell he senses it now. That looks like he's going to be able to take this game and this match away. Does have a lot of Planeswalker activations to make. Satyr token's going to come in. Bunch of mana here. There's a Storm Breath Dragon. Chandra will make it so the Desecration Demon cannot block. Deal 1 to Mr. Hiltz. Put him down to 12. Must be a lot of fun having to manage all those Planeswalkers right now. And into the red zone, the creatures will go. Desecration Demon cannot block because of Chandra. You see Hiltz is going to take a look at it. And I think in just a moment, he's going to concede the match. Stephen Mann is going to defeat Killian Hiltz. 2-0. Green-red monsters, looking like it's the real deal. Going to move on to 3-0 in the hands of a Pro Tour top 8 competitor in Stephen Mann.
Had to really sweat that one out there, even though Steven was in a dominating position for a couple turns there, because that 4th Grey Merchant would have been lethal. But Steven got it done, was able to control Killian's board, and the Planeswalkers unchecked, under no pressure, really just carried the day.
Never, ever question the power of Planeswalkers, my friend.
Well, some of them are.
No. They're all good.
You know what is a combo with Planeswalkers usually?
Do tell.
Additional Planeswalkers.
Accurate.
If your opponent can't beat one, they can't kill one, they likely can't kill the second one. They all have a habit of protecting themselves or giving you this edge, and so it's pretty snowbally. We saw that play out in that game.
Mark my words. Raul Zarek is going to be good soon.